Good morning, everyone, and another beautiful day in our country of unbroken sunshine. It makes me so happy. And with me, I've got my darling friend Nicola, all the way from Aberdeen. Nicola, how are you?
Morning, Lilia. Yes, I'm very well, and I too am very much enjoying all of this sunshine. Long may it last.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable, isn't it? It just totally. I've been in Glasgow, had my grandson out yesterday, and this morning already at 7 a.m., just outside playing. It's just what a difference it makes to life.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm like out walking my dog at sometimes like 6, 6:15 now, and like I'm up at 5, no bother, no alarm. Like it's just, yeah, it's what a difference.
And I love that time in the morning, where
Mhm.
five till I'll get more done in that kind of
Oh,
5 to 7.
100%. Yeah, yeah.
My brain really works then, and
Yeah, me too. I normally get up, I mean, I really should get up and go straight out, but because my brain is so active at that time, that's when I sit down to write all my courses. So between sort of 5 and 7, that's why I try and really, be creative. I mean, after 7 at night, like, I mean, you could ask me anything, I wouldn't even know my name generally, but first thing in the morning, yeah, that's definitely the time to get things done.
Yeah, I totally agree. So listen, for people that haven't met you before, can you just kind of give an overview before we actually go into the latest
Mhm.
kind of educational stuff, an overview of what it is that you do?
Okay, so I have changed what I do quite a lot, probably over the last 5 to 6 years. I retrained as a remedial and sports massage therapist, I don't know, maybe 11, 12 years ago. Um, and like most people, you delve into new things, you find a new path. And it was actually just before lockdown, my interest in the lymphatic system really started to kick off. And ever since then, any course, any reading, anything I can get my hands on to do with lymphatics, I'm all over it. Simply because I think it's such it's such a missed system when it comes to recovery and health. In my experience over the last sort of 6 years, people with chronic pain, chronic disease, chronic everything, you start working with the lymph and everything just gets better. Because at the end of the day, it gets rid of inflammation, and inflammation is generally the root of most things. Between that and fascia, that's probably my two points that I really, really love. And also they're very much interlinked, right? So, I mean, no system works alone, but the two of them really go in tandem. So I do see clients on a one-to-one basis. I'm moving more towards education, simply out of complete frustration that not more people are using this and knowing about this. I also out of frustration of what I see from my clients and the advice they're maybe getting from other modern models. And now, leading on from that, moving into the lymphatics, my mind is just blown. And the changes I've seen in my clients that have been so ill, like so ill, and really, don't know what to do. And the changes that come very, very quickly. It's not overnight, nothing, obviously there are miracles that do happen. But it gives them hope, and I think when you're sick, that's what you need.
Absolutely. Any improvement is just gives that glimmer of light. Can you explain lymphatics for us, please?
Yeah, so the lymphatics, up until about 2012, anatomists and professionals thought that the brain was completely separate from the body, which is just ridiculous. And in 2012, because what they used to do is when they used to cut people open, the cadavers, and obviously see what was happening in the body, the cadavers were all dehydrated, so they didn't see these little tiny structures within the brain. But in 2012, a scientist discovered the lymphatic system, and that the brain has its own way of removing metabolic waste and toxins from the brain. And that's what the lymphatic system does within the body, okay? So the lymphatic system does exactly the same, but it's literally for the brain. And they thought there was just only 3 layers. And then a couple of years later, they then discovered there's actually 4 layers. And there's different ways that our brains will drain. But the most important thing is it drains very little during the day. It's all done at night. So we have to have the pathways clear. Most importantly, we have to make sure we're getting quality sleep, because what happens is the cerebrospinal fluid will come up the spine and it power washes the brain. So obviously we're making new cells all of the time. We regenerate all of the time. And anything that makes energy creates waste. So if we're not flushing the toilet and getting that waste out of our brain, we get brain fog, we get anxiety, because if there's inflammation in the brain's like, oh shit, there's danger. Yes. So then it's going to then create anxiety. You're going to end up with cognitive decline. And then obviously, the biggest thing here, the elephant in the room, is Alzheimer's and dementia. Mm-hmm. But we've got a huge scope of people that are suffering with so many different things before we even get to that. But I truly believe that if more people were educated about this and started draining their brains, then we wouldn't get to that point. And
it's prevention, isn't it, again?
It's prevention, yeah. Absolutely.
And it's interesting that you're saying about moving into training, because that's exactly where I've gone. Because, we talk about it, the doctor I train with in Canada, she's saying we need to be training patients, not just treating them, or training them so that they can treat themselves.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I've had the luxury of having treatments from you, and I just love it. But, there's so many people needing help now. We need 100%. To have so much more availability, and obviously when cost becomes an issue, the more people that can do it, they can swap on and help each other. So,
and even if because I'm training a lot of therapists now, and I've got a little Facebook group, a little support group for them after I do their training, and I encourage them so much. Like if they've I don't say, okay, you're the fascia guys, you're the lymph guys, you're the Twina guys. I ask everybody, and I encourage everybody to use their different modalities to do swaps so that they can look after each other. But the more therapists that I can train that have this understanding, then we're reaching a much wider audience, and it becomes a normalized subject when we're talking about health.
Yes, absolutely. And because therapists in general, we all are, let's face it, pretty guilty. You could be working 24 hours a day if you didn't have to sleep, with the amount of information and the amount of help that's needed. But, taking time out, that's what I love about our festivals, is that the therapists that come, if you're coming as a business, I really hoped you'd be in Stonehaven, but you may be in Thailand. But if you're not, you'll definitely be there. It's an opportunity for every therapist to enjoy the other therapists. You can promote your own business and promote your own modalities and training, etc. But after you've done your hour or whatever it is, you then can just enjoy and network and and totally relax yourself. And that's some of the feedback I've enjoyed most from our presenters, is how great they feel after it, because it's really common. And unless you're really switched in and onto the body, we just keep saying yes, instead of going, no, the nervous system's already got enough to do, thanks.
Yeah, I think probably with the work that I've been doing with the vagus nerve as well, because a lot of my clients now have got autoimmune, so the vagus nerve, the lymph, the fascia, it's all really linked. What I would say, just because I know obviously there'll be a lot of people that are watching this, that the main thing I would really like people to take away from this is, if you've got gut health problems, you've probably got inflammation in your brain. Yeah. And that is because the vagus nerve, it's 10th cranial nerve, comes from the brain, goes all around the body, goes right down to the intestines. So if you can have any inflammation in your gut, that can actually travel up the vagus nerve. It's not just about inflammation going down. So I've got a client at the moment, and yeah, she's had a really, really hard time. And actually, now that we've introduced the brain stuff, what a difference. But in her nervous system, because of the amount of inflammation she's had in her body for so many years, her nervous system is totally shot. And she's done all the work. There's no trauma per se. Although I would say that probably everyone's got trauma, but she's done all that other stuff, but this just seems to maybe be like the missing piece for her. And yeah, no two people are the same, right? You're not going to get the same results, but this is where launching information out there for people to understand, how their body works. And at the moment, I am mainly doing courses for other therapists so that they can become certified and then, use this on their clients. But I'm actually co-hosting an event on the 30th of August in Livingston, where a huge part of the day is going to be basically teaching people that are on this day, about their nervous system, their lymph, their how to, work with their vagus nerve, how to drain their brain, all these kind of things, because there is people asking me, and I will get around to doing an online thing, but yeah, like.
Oh. And it's a case, I think pretty much every healer, therapist, leader, whatever you want to label you want to have, is that we've done like probably hundreds of courses over the years now, and then you take the bits that really resonated with you and helped you, and you create your own thing. And for me, it's always, we know that cold water can really help douse inflammation, but for most people, it's absolutely not enough. You have to, from a nutritional perspective, you're looking at low-grade infections and heavy metals and fungus and parasites, etc. And meditation, we know, can really transform the microbiome, but sometimes that's not enough. So it's a case of, and if the lymphatic system's stagnant, if the vagus nerve's getting fired off every second, and the fascia is completely, jammed and stuck, we have to take, it's a case of sort of taking enough straws off the camel's back to allow the body to, the body to heal itself, which is what it does. It's just a case of us getting out the way and using, these, I was a big fan of talk therapy, still am. And a lot of that was because I wanted to travel and I wanted to be online. When you do body work, you have to be there. But, the kind of help for the body, whether you move it yourself or you get somebody like you to move it forward, can be hugely powerful.
Oh, you've dropped out there. Oh no, you're back.
Yes, I think the internet must have dropped out. The fascia.
I totally agree. Yeah, I totally agree.
Sorry, I got cut off there. I'm saying the fascia is just like this kind of lightning that, electrical thing that goes all the way through the body, like this kind of body stalking that's interconnecting everything. And of course, the vagus nerve's doing that, wandering up and down and firing. And, when you start to see the body as that, and is it even a body? I'm starting to think all these organs have their own consciousness. And you're like, what even is this? It's so fascinating. But listen, tell us about the this latest training that you've been doing on the brain, because I think Alzheimer's, dementia, whatever labels you've got, that terrifies most people. Also, the whole brain fog thing and fatigue and apathy is just rife. I pretty much don't know anybody that's not got that problem.
I think as well, we have such a wave of women that are struggling. So many women are saying to me about perimenopause, and absolutely, we live in such a frantic society that as women's hormones are starting to change, they're not really just getting a chance just to catch their breath and be like, okay, right, I'm changing. It's like they're not getting a chance to sort of integrate these new changes within their body. But I do think a lot of it is fueled by burnout. Because one of the biggest things that women are saying to me is about the brain fog. But I think it's that busyness of the nervous system that is fueling a lot of that. So I do think that there's so many people that can be helped with this, rather than, at the end of the line, which is obviously the worst case scenario, which is dementia and Alzheimer's. But basically, we just have to keep the drainage pathways clear, and we have to make sure that we're getting good quality sleep, because it is only in certain cycles of sleep that there's a chemical that basically fully reduces within the brain when we're in this state of sleep, and that allows the openings of the brain to create more space, and then the cerebral spinal fluid then can really get in and flush the brain. Now, if you are stressing before you go to bed, if you are on your phone before you go to bed, if you're stimulated before you go to bed, you're not going to get into these deep states of sleep. And so therefore, the chemicals within the brain are not going to be able to be properly released. Your brain isn't going to have that space for the cerebral spinal fluid to power wash your brain. And then over time, you're going to be like, oh, I'm not well, I've got all this inflammation, I've got this brain fog. When really it's so simple if we just start with getting proper sleep. I mean, but it's the simple things that most people feel that they can't do. So...
But also working with the light cycles. I mean, I have personal experience of the changes in my hormonal system when I moved to Malta, because my periods came back regularly like clockwork, and my eyesight came back.
Wow.
So I know that, and we're, it's challenging in Scotland because obviously there's pretty much no light for quite a few months in the winter. But even being outside, we need to be outside, and especially at this time of year, you can go out after work and get that natural light. That's your best source of vitamin D.
Absolutely.
But not just vitamin D. We're so limited in our understanding of the body, and we like to focus on one vitamin or whatever, but we were never designed to be inside with artificial lighting all day.
100%.
And we put artificial lighting on at night, and then we put blackout curtains in the morning to keep the light out. I mean, what? And this is having an impact on our hormonal system long term. Of course it is. So there's so many simple 3 things, I like 3 things, that we can do. And, we know that sleep is one of the basic things, because the healing hormones flood in, but you have to be sleeping to access them.
Yeah.
And then we know with the circadian rhythm and the Chinese medicine that each organ gets detoxed. And now what you're telling us, which is new information and very exciting information to me, is that the body, of course, power washes and cleans the brain all by itself. All we have to do is be sleeping.
Absolutely. And, there's now a new theory that we always thought that sleep was for recovery. We always thought that sleep was for processing emotions. That's where the term, you have to sleep on any decision, blah, blah, blah. But they're now theorizing that the main reason that we sleep is so that we can get rid of all the inflammation and metabolic waste in our brain. And this is, I have to say, Lilia,
as well, eating vegetables. The vegetables are to clean the system.
Yeah. And the thing is about all this brain drain stuff, I'm 46. I had a very exciting youth where I didn't sleep for periods of time over weekends.
Me too.
I'm training my brain, 3 times a week. Because I need to make up for that time, right? And now I am so even in in the late nights, I'm going to bed at 9:30 because I'm like, right, 9:30 means I can get up at 4:30 or 5 o'clock, and I'm like, right, I need to have that quality sleep. And honestly, if anybody tries to interfere with that, woe betide them, honestly.
I'm exactly the same, and most people I'm talking to, that are into this stuff are doing exactly the same. I love that time in the morning, and you have to have, I also really know I need my sleep. I function in a completely different way. So getting to bed early is key for me. And then you wake up at 5:15 and you're just like, boom, up.
Yeah, ready to go. Absolutely.
That you're giving the body that time to do all the power washing and cleansing and cleaning and clearing that it needs to do. And I think, we've got this kind of phenomenally different perception of what the body is. We know there's microbes and microbiome, and there's a whole lot of critters living on and in us. And we've come through this crazy age of kill everything, kill the bacteria, anti-bac, anti-this, anti-that. And we're obviously sicker than we've ever been. And it's like, well, come on, guys, we need to get back. We need to be touching the earth. We're interconnected with nature, and sleep is a key part of that. And I remember when I was in Kathmandu, we're trekking in the Annapurna, and you had to work with the natural light because there was no other light really. And you would come in from the trek and it would get dark about 6:30, and everybody got up at 4 a.m. because it was bright light. And I thought, son, why are we talking about what time it is as if it matters? Just work with the light.
Yeah, absolutely.
Structures, school, work, everything is structured around this really false narrative around what we should and shouldn't be doing, when it's, in actual fact, the body knows exactly what it shouldn't be doing. If we just had the time.
Working with the seasons, isn't it? Like spring is for new ideas, summer is for action because you've got more energy. And then, winter is for wintering and hibernation, but yeah, but I understand it's very difficult. Like, it's okay for me because, I'm self-employed. I can choose what I do, when I do it, whatever, but it's very difficult for people that are still, they still feel a little bit stuck within the construct. And don't get me wrong, there's jobs out there now that you can pick your hours and, I think most people are kind of coming around to this new way of, okay, what actually works for me and my health and my happiness more than anything, right? Because that's the most important thing. Because if you're happy, you're healthy. But yeah, this whole going to work in the dark, coming home in the dark, I mean, it's not, you can do that for
it's not conducive to it. And also I think, I don't know if you saw my podcast with Brady Gunn from Australia yesterday. And also, I mean, it was just a phenomenal, hilarious guy, but we're just talking about, that we have to co-create a new earth, because what we're doing right now, we've got a third of our population unable to work because of the madness that's going on. And it's time for change. I think anybody that's consciously connected to anything understands that. Maybe we don't know how it's going to work or happen, but it has to happen. It is no longer an issue. Otherwise, we're on a very awful downward trajectory to get sicker and sicker. And there's absolutely no need for that once you understand what the body is. And I did a workshop in heart coherence. That's my biggest obsession right now. And we're all talking about that, like, I like you, pick and choose. And obviously I'm a lot older. I'm just like, I am not getting stressed for anything now. But people are still in a workplace with, dinosaur bosses, egotistical, not able to be the most incredible version of themselves because of micromanagement and old-fashioned ideas, and of course 100% focus on money, rather than looking at everything and, money. Of course we need to pay the bills, or do we? All of that has to really be re-looked at and addressed, and it's going to have to be us, the people. But the problem is, if you've got a third of your population too sick to work, who's going to take the action? So the most simple thing you can do is make sure you get great sleep, and then you're going to be able to make these better choices, because we have to have a place where one person in the family can work and keep a roof over your head. That, whether that, it doesn't matter who it is, and you can chop and change and switch it around, but we need to be able to be at home with our kids, with our families, with our elderly. I mean, it's just, how did we get here? You're just like, oh my God, And as you say, this information, I was talking to my son about it this morning, about I listened to the Sisterhood Circles podcast on Manjaro and the skinny jabs, which just gives me the absolute fear, and the creeps, because they're using that dope sick marketing campaign. You're not lost enough yet, double your dose. And just, how are these people getting away with this? Injecting people with Now, don't get me wrong, I understand if, that maybe, if you go to your doctor and you can really look at that helping you, that's probably going to be a thing for some people. But just
absolutely. I do think, there's a small amount of people that it fits in for. Yes. But the problem is
they're selling it online to vulnerable teenagers. You can be skinny and, it's just it drives me insane. And they know your vulnerability, right? You want to be slim. And now it's like, and it'll stop you getting cancer. It suggests.
I know.
So it's like all our innate fears. They're like, we've got the solution. We've got the solution. Take this and you won't die. Take this and you'll be slim. And you're just like, oh my God, it drives me absolutely.
Yeah, but the thing is, Lilia, the problem is, and I look at my own eating habits, and when I decide that I'm not going to, when I fall off the wagon with my eating habits, it's because I'm too busy, I'm too stressed, and I'm too tired.
Yeah.
So again, it's simple, because I've done I done a whole heap of stuff around food when I was younger, and that, and again, there's no help for people to understand why they do the things that they do. There's just shame and blame just attached to it. Yes. So then it's like, okay, well, if you can't like not do this thing, like for example, eat chocolate cake or whatever at 12 o'clock at night, then there's something wrong with you. Mm-hmm. So to correct that here, you're going to have to take this medication because there's no other scope to help you not do that when there is. Yeah, there's heaps of scope.
Well, the thing is that, there's much as we're into this world and obsessed and, always continuing learning and wanting to tell people, about how amazing the body is. And once you understand a little bit more, there still is a huge percentage of the population have no idea even about food. Yeah. So, and as the more cheap, processed, poisoned rubbish becomes prolific and available, there's only one way that can go. And then so it's like, instead of like I was talking to Steve and Jane from the Good Food Project, their big thing is food security and freedom in Scotland, and convincing enough people to buy the dry goods, and that'll drive the price down. And then we link up with local growers and farmers, because if they can stop the supermarkets getting food like that, how vulnerable are we in terms of food security? But it's like, I think, most people just still don't really understand that. They don't see, even although the co-op shelves are empty right now, that's where you can get to. Where are you going to get your food if the supermarkets are closed? We have to change it. Don't wait until there genuinely is no food. Start looking at what we can do ourselves and the solutions, because, I think we've sat back and we've had these great years of abundance, and any food you want, you can get it delivered to your bed if you want. And now it's like, maybe we need to think about this a little bit more deeply. So in a nutshell then, what would you say for the fascia, the lymphatics, and the lymph in the brain, all of that together? What is so we know sleep is absolutely key.
So
the big six.
Most people so most people, but also this forward head posture. So when you have, everything generally drains in the brain through here. I mean, it does come through the sinuses and into the mouth as well, but the main points are here. So this tech-snack thing needs to stop, this forward head posture. And also because it will drain a little bit during the day, but not as much as when you're sleeping. But most people, if they've got this forward head posture, they sleep with about 3 pillows because their head has become so used to being in in that sort of position. So fascia work around the neck is really useful. The big six, absolutely. What I would say about the big six, it is very much it's a maintenance. So if you feel that it's not working for you, if you give yourself a bit of a rub here on your sternum and then in your gut, in your tummy, and that is really tender and sore, it just means you've got deeper blocks, and that is when you would go and see somebody to deal with it. So the big 6: proper sleep, hydration, hydration, hydration. Stress really kicks off the fascia and the lymphatic system. So working with the vagus nerve, so doing your diaphragmatic breathing. If you massage your ear, that really helps the vagus nerve. You can get a little bit of tape, a little bit of kinesiology tape, and just pop it there, lift the skin. So that'll lift the skin. So not only will that help the vagus nerve, but also it'll help drain your brain as well.
Yeah, I forgot you gave me that as well. This is the thing, isn't it? It's remembering all these, and I love these things that are so simple, because, you know, if people are tired and busy, it's like, oh, another thing I have to do. So yeah, that's great advice. Well, listen, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and reaffirming the incredible importance of the circadian rhythm and sleep and the light cycles. And really, it's up to us, as always, isn't it?
And as you always say, Lilia, and I quote this all the time, patience and persistence. You know, you can't have been through decades of stress, toxic load, you know, your allostat, I always talk about the allostatic load and the, you know, the bucket, and your bucket being overflowing. And instead of people taking things out, they pour more things in, like supplements and all the rest of it. You know, so it's actually looking at trying to reduce the load rather than actually putting more things in. So like fasting, you know, just clean water. And yeah, just get your feet in the grass, man. Like
Scotland's wild medicine, man. That is it. So I was down at your is it Dave's sauna?
Oh yeah.
I did a social enterprise exchange, and we went down there and had a sauna, and then we got fish and chips delivered to his little bit outside, and we sat round the bonfire. It was amazing.
He's such an amazing guy, right? He's just like,
I'm going to call him about the Stonehaven Festival, because I want to obviously get him involved. So yeah, well, listen, thanks a million. I will be up your way again, so I'll just keep messaging anytime I'm coming
message me, let me know.
And we can hopefully get a sauna together and a proper catch
that'd be good.
Okay.
Okay,
have a
bye.
lovely day. Ciao,
you
ciao.
too. See you later. Bye.